Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so grateful to have you guys here with me tonight. We are doing something very special tonight. This evening, we are going to have what I like to call the Sydellia Ndiaye special. For those of you who caught the Sydellia Ndiaye show last night, you saw that we had our special guest, Doctor Jamaal Fortner, who is a mental, a therapist and a clinician. And he we had an incredible conversation. If you did miss it, don't worry, you can check it out on my IGTV page. The full episode is up and running now. So you can check that out. Be sure to check that out because it was a really critical conversation on race, mental health, and COVID. And I think that there's a lot of great takeaways. So the conversation was so amazing that I wanted to bring Dr. Jamaal Fortner back in to talk specifically about this daunting, crazy monster called the imposter syndrome. So I don't know how many of you know about the imposter syndrome, but you know what? If you've ever felt like you didn't deserve to be where you are in life, if you ever felt like, that you didn't deserve the seat at the table, especially professionally, then maybe you have imposter syndrome. It was something that I recently discovered this past year, and I wasn't really sure why I was developing these feelings of anxiety and stress and doubting kind of my experience, my skills, my capabilities when most around me, were like, what do you mean? Like, you're doing incredible things in life, and most people with a high success rate actually exhibit this syndrome a lot, I realized. So I really wanted to kind of just bring on a professional that could help us pick and dissect a little bit more, what this syndrome is and how can we combat it so that we can lead healthier lives and kind of achieve self-actualization, I guess. So I want to bring in Dr. Jamaal Fortner, who is in the building, and I'm so excited to have him here. But yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this one for sure. We're gonna have to delve into it. All right, let's bring him on in.
Hello.
Hello, good evening again. It's a party again.
I know, right? I'm so excited.
Me too. I'm loving your dashiki. Okay, King, I see you.
As we talked about it yesterday, I felt like this might be apropos for the evening.
I think you're absolutely right. Now I wish you had given me the memo so I could have joined you in a little something. We're so happy you're here joining us again tonight. Last night was really incredible. I'm sure you received feedback on last night's show.
Yeah, some folks told me that they enjoyed it and they enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, I was really grateful for you. I think we had a lot of great takeaways. And like I told people, make sure you check out the full episode on my IGTV because it was really, really incredible. But today we are here to talk about the imposter syndrome. I'm so grateful that I met you and that you can help us unpack this crazy beast.
All right, so let's just kind of start at the beginning, I guess. I think that's the easiest way to do this.
Absolutely.
So, when we're talking about imposter syndrome, the main thing that we're talking about is the feelings that come along with success. And sometimes you don't even have to be terribly successful, but it's like just because I'm a little bit better than the next person, I can feel like, why me? Why did I do something special? Am I deserving of this space that I'm in? I think a lot of times the people who are readily affected by this are high achievers. If you're that person, you're always, shooting to be better. A lot of times, yeah. But to fall into those feelings of like, I'm doing good, but I could probably be doing something else.
Right.
All my life I've had ADHD. So, when your brain never really stops and you're constantly, spinning those wheels, you're going to think of that next thing that you could be doing. And the thought is like, well, why haven't I done that yet? Right. It just came to you 2 seconds ago. You're like, I should have already done that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's that odd feeling of like, am I just a poser? Am I really not worthy of the space that I'm in? And will others? The bigger part is, will others see me as being unworthy of the space that I'm in, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's kind of imposter syndrome in a nutshell. However, when we break it down, it can always be broken down further and further and further. But I want to give a second so that you can kind of digest that one and we can go.
Yes. Please do. So, okay, so that's really incredible. I think most people want to know, like, who generally exhibits this syndrome. What is the target normally, or can it kind of happen to anyone across race, age, sex?
So I think this is, it seems to me that this can happen to anybody in general.
Right.
However, I do believe that when you're talking about people of color, especially younger Black professionals, this happens more frequently. The reason is, oftentimes we're going to walk into a corporate atmosphere where we may be the only Black person, we may be the youngest person, it can be any of those things. And so you're walking into an environment where you're immediately expected to assimilate, as we mentioned yesterday,
Right.
often being made to assimilate to European standards that are not set in place for you. And in addition to that, they're going to say, oh, well, how did you get this job? Or, I've heard that one in a few instances.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get this job? And it's like, well, I was hired by human resources. That's how I got this job.
Yeah, and how dare you come at me for my qualification? How did you get the job? I don't understand.
Exactly. And again, that's where we talk about those microaggressions. When
Yes.
you're into that and you're dealing with microaggressions on a daily basis, especially racially based microaggressions, it is going to oftentimes push you towards that imposter syndrome. If you're not there, you're going to be pushed in that direction, because now you're looking at it like, oh, they don't think I need to be here. Well, I'll show them. I'm about to do this up.
Right.
Never been done.
Yeah, and I discovered, first of all, I want to thank all the new guests that have joined us this evening. We're sitting down with Dr. Jamaal Fortner, unpacking the imposter syndrome. Thank you so much. I see you guys. This is a little more unconventional. It's not the Sydellia Ndiaye show platform, so I can shout out and like kind of, feel free to, Dr. Fortner, to say hi to your peoples. We can have contact. We can break the barrier today. But I realized as I was starting to feel these different feelings, I didn't know what to call it. It was unknown, right? Like I was feeling them, but I felt like I was all alone. I was all by myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it because I felt like I would be kind of ostracized, or, I'm kind of someone who's seen as you, which is true. It's true. With all humility, is this, really confident, has it all together, kind of successful person. But I have my feelings and my moments, my intimate moments of fear and inferiority, I guess. So when I first kind of, was trying to understand what this was, it was actually my mom who was like, yeah, I think you have imposters. I was like, Mom, what is that? Stop making up words. What is this thing? I'm an imposter. I am no imposter. What does that mean? But I did a little digging. So please correct me if I'm wrong, doctor, that I noted, based on the International Journal of Behavioral Sciences, it says that 70% of people experience it at least once in their life. And I don't know if you're thinking, like, really? Like 70%? So that means we're all going through it.
I would almost venture to say it's a number that's even higher, because of course, always be reported. However, when you look at it for what it is, I mean, let's talk about the imposter cycle. So the imposter cycle is, first, I'm worried about, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I capable? So then the next step is, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to go, if everybody else is working 8-hour days, I'm going to work 12-hour days, because I want to outdo them, because I want to compensate for what I perceive to be my own deficits, right?
Right.
Then you get the result of that work, and then everybody goes, oh my God, that was great. You did a beautiful job. And for a second, I can breathe and I can go, whew,
yeah,
over. But then the next problem is, tomorrow I have a brand new assignment that I got.
Exactly. Or you feel like it's still never enough, even like your life's work or your life's accomplishment, right?
Definitely.
So what do you think are some of the, what have you, studied, are some of the main reasons for people exhibiting this kind of feeling?
So believe it or not, like when you go back, for a lot of people, imposter syndrome can start in the family settings. Because if you were the kid who had this high need to please everybody in your family, right? You're in a house where anger and conflict aren't really managed well, or you maybe were the kid who wasn't seen as naturally gifted. You didn't have a lot of people heaping praise on you going, oh my God, you're so smart. Oh my God, you're so good at X, Y, or Z. If you were the kid who really had to work for it all the time,
right,
though you worked for it and you earned it, as an adult, you still feel like, wow, I'm still having to work for it. Nothing is coming naturally. It's like
That's right.
just settled into a pattern that you believe to be there. I've settled into this understanding of, you know what, I'm never going to just get it the first time. I'm never going to just be inherently good at it. I have to work my butt off to get to a space of being just good enough, you know? And as I mentioned, for those kids who grew up without that validation, achievement became their source of validation, you know?
Especially for Africans, I think that's even important. I don't know if you know that, but
Of course.
Africans, we have it bad.
Yeah. Of course, you know, and also I found that to be a really high thing in Asian culture as well. You know,
Absolutely.
Asian culture is very similar with that, where it's like, I'm not gonna applaud you for doing what you should have done. You're going to have to go above and beyond for me to give you that validation. And even then, I may still find that area of weakness and focus on that. You know, you come home with a 99. Why wasn't it 100? You know,
Yeah.
that. So if for the child, the achievement becomes their source of validation. So I'm not internally validated anymore. All of my validation comes from an external factor. So imposter syndrome is literally like it's feeding that need for external validation. But the bad part is even when you get it, then what? You know, it's like, okay, we're just starting the cycle again.
Exactly. And that's kind of part of what we'll get into later, of how we can start to combat this. Because the thing is that it is one of those things that is only in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to kind of move forward if you don't kind of tackle it and address it and understand that it doesn't matter how hard, you know, you're working, what you're doing. If you're not content with what you're doing, then it's really a moot point, right? But I know a lot of people, as I mentioned, I didn't know how to identify the symptoms of this phenomena. And I know that maybe a lot of people feel that way. So I ask you, Doc, why do you think it's so difficult to identify?
I think the part about it that makes it difficult to identify because of how it actually shows up. It's going to show up as perfectionism. It's going to show up as it's going to look like false humility. You know, going, this was such a great job you did, and you go, oh well, it was okay. I thought it was all right. You know, these things could have been better. You know,
Right.
so all people will see is, wow, they're a really hard worker, and you know they're
And so humble.
you know, and they're so too, you know, and they're such team players. That's what people are going to see. So they're going to praise those parts of it, not
Right.
realizing that you're dealing with so much internal strife about what you're going through that, you know, maybe this is not a good thing, you know. So
Yeah.
when we just talk about, you know, when you mentioned how to notice imposter syndrome, one of the biggest things is if you find yourself being that person who's the workhorse all the time, you know, all of your coworkers have good work-life boundaries. At 5 p.m., they're going home, but you're sitting there till 7 or 8 every night. That is one of the hallmarks. That's one of the things that says maybe you feel like you don't deserve to be in the space you're in, and that's why you're working this hard. Mention that huge sense of false humility. You know, I know that I just spent 3 weeks, you know, 16 hours a day working on something. But when people tell me I did a good job, I'm like, you think? I think I just looked up. You know, it's like you did the work. You put in the work. Say you put in the work. It's okay.
Right. Yeah, I just want to add on to that. Before I ask my next question, I just want to take a minute to thank those of us again who the newcomers. I see you guys. Mike, I see you. Ima, I see you. Darrell, welcome. Tiff, I'm so grateful for you guys being here as we sit down with Dr. Jamaal Fortner. I felt like, as I mentioned, I think for me, another reason might be that we're not talking about it enough. So first it's identifying it, of course, which you've helped us do now. So hopefully people can know, kind of have some indicators, you know, to be able to even know that maybe this is something that they need to think about and work on. But for me, it was just like, again, this fear of being ostracized or feeling like I was the only one going through. And that's why I really wanted to bring up that percentage of how many people actually experience this statistically. And you, as you said, the numbers could be even larger. But yeah, you know, do you think it's important for us to kind of open up this conversation? I think the more that people understand, and again, according to what I've learned, it doesn't, we're focusing on the black community or the African community because we're playing our part and that's what's relevant. But believe it or not, guys, it's affecting all races, all ages, all, like, not all sexes, only two sexes, but you know what I mean? It affects everyone, right?
Yeah, and I think that one of the bigger things in terms of why we don't ever really talk about this is because we talk about the symptoms of it, but we don't talk about the cause of the symptoms. So we're going to talk about the fact that, man, I'm anxious at work, or like maybe it's low self-esteem, or maybe I'm depressed or frustrated, but we're not talking about what's causing my anxiety and my low self-esteem and my depression and my frustration. That's being caused by imposter syndrome. But we're not
Right.
discuss it in that respect. We're just going to talk about the symptoms. Oh my gosh, every time I go to work, I mean, when I have to sit in these board meetings, I'm so anxious. I just feel like everyone's talking over me. I don't understand. These are the things that we're going to bring to light. And these are the things that we'll focus on. But what we're not focusing on is, why do you feel anxious? Why do you feel like they're talking over you? Did you not
Right.
the adequate amount of research? Did you not do the same job that they did? Is your education not the same as theirs? That
Right.
situation.
And you mentioned that it could, the causes could stem from family conditions, but is that one of the only? Are there other maybe factors that you can tell us about?
I think one of the big things, and I do think a lot of times it starts in youth, with the internals type stuff, like, oh, no
Okay.
one's validating me, that kind of thing. How
Right.
I think also a large part of it, and not to bring it back to race, but a large part of it is your racial background, because we're going to talk about social capital. If you
Mm.
family that had unlimited amounts of social capital, where when you got into a jam, your mom or dad could call someone and then fix it, or when you're talking about, oh, I need an internship, and you can call somebody and get that fairly easily. If you have that level of social capital, that does build a certain confidence, because I know that I can call someone to get what I need. But for a lot of us, especially coming from, if you're coming from a middle class background, or even an upper middle class background, and you're African American or African or any of the minority groups, you very likely don't have a whole lot of social capital built up at that moment.
Right. Right.
Additionally, a lot of us don't have a roadmap to follow in our chosen fields in our chosen career fields. Um,
Right.
in my family, I don't know that we had any social workers. I mean, I don't think we had any therapists for sure. So it's like, this was all new for me.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things where, for people of color, in particular minority groups, it is very difficult, and we are going to probably suffer with it a bit more than those who have the social capital at the outset.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to share my experience a little bit with you, if that's okay. Just because I think, even for like, I know we're speaking even professionally, but I think I was just thinking about, again, this African side of things. Hi, Maggie. Thanks for joining. Rita, thank you for joining us. Thinking about the African side of things, like, I'm bicultural. My mother's Black American. My father is Senegalese. And he's kind of your traditional African man. I got a little lucky because he worked for the UN, so he traveled a lot. So he's a little more open-minded than your average African dad. Um, but nonetheless, he's still really like rooted and grounded in his culture and his traditions and his values, which I love and appreciate, because it is a part of who I am today and why I'm a proud African. But I know for the longest, he kind of I feel like even as an adult, I was always trying to. My mom was always super supportive. Not that my father wasn't, but I grew up with positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So this confidence that I do have, or being able to identify for me to say, hey, I'm feeling symptoms again of this thing that I don't know to call imposter syndrome, but I'm feeling these symptoms and I know it's unlike me. I know it is out of my personality and my character. So it was easy for me to, I'm very in tune with myself. So it was a little easier for me to identify that something was off and seek to maybe get help or to talk about it with someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the point was just that, growing up with positive reinforcement helped a lot. So you're right. Family circumstances, I think, play a huge role in even how you navigate it. But I feel like as an adult, I'm still even trying to prove to my dad a little bit that I'm like successful and that he can be proud of me. And he says it every day, but because he has this different idea of success, you know, for him, I'm supposed to be working a 9 to 5. Like, that was a huge battle, being an artist and being a creative and being in media. And it wasn't kind of until I remember I had my first like major, I was working with a television channel back in Senegal, and it was during Dakar Fashion Week. So it was this huge fashion week. And that was when I first started hosting and announcing and doing all that. Mm-hmm. And I remember inviting my dad to the opening party because we both happened to be in Senegal at the same time. And he saw me on the big screen in this auditorium, like speaking. And he was like, he started crying. And I was like, Dad, like, he never cries. I was like, what's happening? He was like, that was the moment for him where he like realized that I was good at this and that this was my destiny and that this is, so it took him seeing that to then be fully supportive of my artist and media path. Mm-hmm. But before that, it was a battle. And even though he saw that moment, you know, I still feel a little bit of pressure today to just live up to his expectations. Like, engineer, you have to get good job, you have to be engineer, IT, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I just, you know, I love writing and I love speaking to people, so.
But you know, that lack, as you point out, like not feeling an internal feeling of success, you know, yes. That is a huge hallmark of imposter syndrome, because the thing about it is everyone else can look at you and go, oh my gosh, she's doing so well, she's doing all of these things. But if you can't look at it and say, wow, I've done something great, then it's all for nothing, you know? And I think
it's even harder as an entrepreneur, Doc, and again, as an artist. And I want to say that because I have a lot of artist friends who are even here in the building. Yvette, I see you. Mike, again, you know, Megan, Afro Social Centric, thank you. And that's like major for us too, right? Because like it's never enough. Like there isn't a model that we're following. We're creating our own path, our own model. So it can even be harder to, I don't know, to believe in yourself and to not doubt, to not always say, I'm not doing enough.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing about it is, we will overwork or self-sabotage ourselves just to almost validate those feelings of inadequacy that come along with imposter syndrome. You know, you will find that, for me, for example, I mean, as I mentioned, I told you guys yesterday, my dad's my hero. I love him all to pieces.
Yeah. Dad
will do this thing where if he's really proud of something, he'll just be like, well, all right.
And you know that's his language. Yeah.
Really, that's him. Like, he's never going to give you like any big response. It's just, well, right. You know, and I'm cool with that. I've gotten, like, this is his way to go. That's it. And I'm cool with that. But I think for myself, I'm looking at things and going, and initially this was my biggest problem, was comparison. I was comparing myself to other people with that. I'm comparing myself to someone's story that I have no idea the fullness of. And, you know, I love social media. I really, really do. But we find ourselves in a space where we're constantly looking at someone doing these great things, living this amazing life. But what I'm only looking at is literally a picture. A fraction of a second out of this person's life is what they just. Like, so the other, you know, days, months, years, I have no idea what's happening with them. They could be completely miserable, but I'm starting my life by the fraction of a second that they've put on social media. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of us who grew up in the social media generation, it's very difficult to differentiate real life from social media.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, they're smiling and they have a Gucci bag, but in real life, they don't have $1 to put in that Gucci bag.
Ooh,
you know?
Ooh, preach.
So it's like we have to be mindful of the fact that what we're seeing is not reality. What we're seeing is someone's construct. You know, this
or what they want to portray.
Exactly. I'm looking at their highlight reel, but I'm living in my behind the scenes. So how are we gonna make that, like, how am I gonna equate the two?
Absolutely.
So definitely.
Yeah, I know I work in media, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say it on air. Please forgive me. I'm not a fan of social media. If it was not a tool you know, I want to use it the way it was intended to be used, as a tool. Yes, and social networking, we understand, but not to covet our neighbors.
Exactly. But as I'm saying, like, the imposter cycle feeds into this, because if
it does.
You're never enough, then you look at someone maybe who you went to school with or who you grew up with, and they're living this amazing life, and you're like, what the crap? What did I do wrong? You know?
Honestly, I gotta shut it down. I've done like over 50 countries and I still see people on beaches and I'm upset. I get upset, okay? I'm like, what's wrong? What am I doing with my life? Why can't I be on the sandy beach? Why am I not working hard enough to deserve this?
But you know, and that's the thing though, and I think to get past imposter syndrome is to give those positive reminders. We need positive.
That was going to be my question. How can we delve into this? And before you answer that, Doc, anyone, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in. We'll leave a lot, maybe 1 or 2 minutes for questions. You know, you guys know how IG works. You know, you can have, there's a question section. So don't just put them in the comments. Go ahead and ask, put the questions in the question icon so that I can bring and pull the questions up for Doc to be able to review. All right, this is your chance, guys. You got any questions? We got the psychologist. We got him here today. You better take advantage, honey. We got professional help. Lord Jesus knows we need it.
So one of the big things I think is going to always be positive reinforcements. Don't be afraid to look at yourself in the morning and tell yourself something positive. You're going to be with you all day long. Positive. Look at yourself and tell yourself, I'm worthy of my job and I'm worthy of the things that are coming into my field and my realm. Speak positively about yourself so that these things can manifest around you. You know, I think one bad part about the imposter syndrome is you're constantly telling yourself so many negative things. I don't deserve to be here. I'm not worthy of this. They're all going to see me as a fraud, all these other things. But how about you start changing that channel and giving yourself positive feedback? If it means it down and putting it on your computer monitor, put positive things all around your office, because the thing is, it's about you and it's about how you feel about you. Everybody in this world could think nothing of you at all, but if you think the world of you, you can do some amazing things. For as much as I'm not a fan of our current president, this man thinks very highly of himself.
Why do you think I've escaped to Canada? Anyways, no.
You know, I'm trying to join you.
No, but you're right. That kind of confidence, he believes in himself enough to bring others along. So it's a model that maybe y'all should look at.
Exactly. So belief in yourself can take you to the highest office in this land. It doesn't matter qualified or not.
Absolutely.
Even if you have to pay somebody to take your SATs for you. But that's neither here nor there.
That's true. Thank you for joining us, Jessica. Jessica is a social worker. I'd love to put you guys in contact too. She was a guest on the show and she had some really great tips for self-care that were really synchronous with some of your philosophies as well.
Awesome. Hey, Jessica, I see you.
But so self-love, the self-care, and I love this quote that you have here. You have so many great quotes on your page, but this is just one of the many. You guys follow Dr. Fortner on official Doc J. I've pinned his handle here so that you can kind of, even reach out to him. Really an incredible and amazing person, really open and personable, in my opinion. I'm sure therapists are supposed to be that way, but I just love you extra hard. Like, I think you're just really personable and really easy to talk to and speak with. Not like, again, I should be surprised, but you say a little win is a win all the same. So part of the self-love does it include being patient with yourself?
Of course, being patient and being gentle. I think sometimes we will give someone else so much leeway and so much grace, and we won't give that to ourselves. It's like if someone else messes up, you're like, oh, it was just a small mistake. But if you mess up, like, stupid. It's like, no. Yourself. I'm human. I'm going to make a mistake, and it doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't make me less qualified. It just makes me human. And when we say a little win, sometimes we're always looking for that big finish. As I said, there's a 1,000-mile journey ahead. You've already walked the first 2 miles.
Right.
Those 2 miles. Yeah, you got 998 to go, but let's talk about the 2 that we got through already.
Right. Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
Learning how to celebrate the little wins, and then you build up a big one. It's okay. I found myself, especially like finishing up, doctoral studies, every semester, every class, every paper that I got through, I'm like, whoo, that's one.
You did. Hallelujah. I know that's right. Honey, I remember my thesis. I don't miss those days, honey. Ooh, wee.
Like every time you get one win, you celebrate that win to the end. You gonna celebrate.
I love that.
more. And then you move to,
That's a great way to exercise gratefulness too, right?
of course, you know,
Absolutely.
and it's gratitude. And a lot of people don't understand the importance of starting your day with that.
Mm.
You know, stop looking at yourself as where you should be and look at yourself as, thank goodness I am where I am. Because for as much as we may want it to be different, it could be worse in the sense of you could not even be where you are, you know?
So what if people need a little extra help, Doc? Because I hate to say, but it's easier said than done sometimes, right? There is a mental fortitude that needs to happen on many different levels in order for a person to even be able to truly exercise, or say they're just really deep in their feelings, their emotions, their depression, etc. It can be really difficult for them to kind of see that light. Is this where you'd recommend seeking out professional help, or what are some other solutions outside of, again, this self-affirmation, this self-love, this patience, and this gratitude?
So I'm always gonna always advocate for seeing somebody, you know, that's
Of
just,
course, of course. But it's really helpful, I think. I saw a psychologist, and it was one of the best decisions. I wish I knew you then, because she was a white woman and she only helped me a little bit. But, it was still good. It was okay.
one of the big things I think for everyone to always remember is I'm always going to look at the idea of go see somebody, but what if you don't have the money to go see somebody? If you don't have the money, if you don't have the resources to get to somebody, maybe you live in a rural area.
Right.
I'm going to say start with a gratitude journal. For about almost a year and a half, I kept a gratitude journal, and it was simple. I woke up every day and I wrote
Amazing.
things that I was grateful for. And it could be literally as basic as I woke up this morning. I'm grateful that when I turned on the faucet, water came out, you know, because sometimes I have to start at a base level of gratitude. I'm
Yes.
in the mood where I'm like, oh, thank you for the trees. Thank you for the birds singing in the air. I'm not there right now. Maybe
Doc, I literally hug and kiss myself in the morning. I'm like, you're beautiful, you're amazing. I love you, girl.
you know, and I would jokingly tell my coworkers that, because they'd be like, how are you today? I'm alive. That's where I'm at today. I mean, I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just alive. And for that,
Mm.
stay in that space until I can get to I'm so happy. Let me stick in the space of I'm alive.
Right.
You know,
Right. For
that's
sure.
blessing, and that's my gratitude, and that's where I'm starting from today. And I'll stay there until I branch out and make it bigger. But if I'm alive is all I got right now, I'm gonna hold on to that with both hands.
That's absolutely right. That's okay. That's a great first step. Just thanking God, or if you believe in a higher being, for this breath. That's incredible. You guys don't have any questions? You guys didn't bring in questions, so I guess that's a good sign. That means that you have that you have answered everything according to what I'm saying. I was thinking about briefly too, when you mentioned the way that we speak to ourselves being an important part of this self-love. And it reminded me a little bit of a conversation that I had with another guest who joined us tonight, Sirena, she's a mindset and a mental health coach, and she spoke to us about the inner child. We had a whole conversation strictly about the inner child, and that was one of the greatest takeaways, that when you speak to a child, and with this tone, or rudely, or aggressively, or angrily, or no, you would speak to them calmly. You'd speak to them with love, and so she, spoke about that's the way we should essentially speak to ourselves,
Definitely.
children.
You know, and I'll piggyback off of that and say I think of it as, you know, oftentimes we have people say, well, why aren't my relationships what they should be? Why can't I have a positive relationship? What is your relationship with yourself? Because we teach others how to treat us. So self poorly, and I'm speaking down to myself, and I'm, insulting myself, what's the next person gonna do? Because
Right.
is okay. I'm teaching them that this is what I respond to. So I have to treat myself well in order to teach others that's how I expect to be treated. So if I don't start it, who will? You know, if I'm
Absolutely.
that I'm not enough and I'm not worthy, I'm always gonna settle for things that are beneath what I should have, because I'm gonna just settle for, well, I guess this is enough, when in real life it's not. And I've just accepted it. And that's the bad part about this. The
Right.
branches out into so many aspects of your life.
But also in terms of even healthy relationships, we're digressing too much. But, you know, to not be dependent on others for your happiness, you know, it's really important to exercise this understanding of being with yourself. It doesn't mean, you know, once you are with a partner too, but you know, you still that you'll never what and I've tested it, Doc. I've tried and tested it to be true. I thought other people could make me happy. And then I had everything I wanted. Say a man who gave me everything. I was like, no, see, no, because I still don't love myself. Nope.
You know,
That's very true.
like a few days ago, I was thinking about that, and that's when I was like, you know, it's a very disappointing time when you realize that that trophy is nothing but some broken, dusty plastic. It's gonna,
Ooh.
you know, that's never a good realization when you realize, hey, well, I married this person or I've been with this person because they make me happier. Look at that. Yeah. And then you realize, wait, I'm a broken person and I'm married, or I decided to be with a broken person, and now what do we have? We have nothing.
Right.
So that's definitely it. And I feel like when we're talking about healthy relationships, not to go that far out, but in general, it has to start with you and how you're treating yourself.
Sure.
How familiar you are with neuro-linguistic programming, or the concepts around it are basically the things that you say are what you will subconsciously work to create. So
Sure.
talking about the fact that something's going to fail, it's not good enough, that's what you're subconsciously working to make happen. So why not speak positively so that you manifest positively? I'm going to speak positively over my projects and my family, my friends, and myself above all else. And when I do that, I'm going to show up in the way that I want to show up, in the way that I feel I'm relegated to showing up. You know?
Yes. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I've kept you a little bit longer than I should have. Please forgive me, but you know, I just feel like this is so relevant and pertinent, and I'm so grateful that you were able to be here with us tonight to help us kind of delve into that a little more. If you guys want more information, you know, I'm a mental health advocate, so I post a lot of stuff about that and kind of center. It seems that it's kind of taken a mind of its own, but it seems like even my show has been more or less centered around this kind of mental health acuity. Just because I think that's the starting point for all of us. So I just really want to thank you for joining us this evening. We're not going to take too much more of your time. This is the last call for not last call. Right? This is the last call for questions. Okay.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, and thanks, guys. I'm seeing like I know my sister's here. Happy birthday!
Yay! Hi, sis.
Blue and White family are here. The Zetas, the Sigmas. Hey, y'all.
Hey, okay.
Loving y'all.
I'm here for it. We want to thank you again, you guys. Please be sure to go and follow Dr. Fortner. I've pinned his handle right here. And is it okay, Doc, for me to let them know that they can reach out to you? If they need to.
Good.
Reach out, guys. Get the help you need. If you don't know what to do, you better ask somebody. That's what I always say. There is always somebody who knows. Okay, so you better ask somebody. I'm here for it. Thank you again so much. We love you and we appreciate you. And I'm sure we'll be getting a follow. We'll bring you back because there's other stuff to talk about. We're gonna bring you back because I think that the people like y'all like you. We need you in our lives.
I'm happy to be here. Thank y'all so much. I love y'all. Spread love in all things you do. All right.
Yes, doctor. Okay. Have an amazing evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, thank you guys so much for tuning in. That was an incredible 30 minutes. It was short but sweet. I know that you guys want a little bit more of that, but I think we got some really pertinent information. And, you know, share this with people. If you think that you know someone who is suffering from imposter syndrome, or you are suffering from imposter syndrome and you don't feel like you have the tools to kind of manage it yourself after this, again, it was just 30 minutes, but it's just to give you guys a starting point. If you don't feel like that's enough, then you can reach out to people like Dr. Fortner. You can reach out to our Jessicas that I've had on the show and the Sirenas that I've had on the show, or just people that if you don't want professional people that you trust, okay, just talk to your friends, talk to your family. I talk to my bestie about how I feel every day, you know, or to my mom every day. Just talk to somebody. Dang, don't make me say it a million times, okay? All right, you guys, everyone have a wonderful and lovely evening. Thank you for joining us on this Sydellia Ndiaye special. I am your host, Sydellia Ndiaye, and I will see you guys again next Tuesday on the Sydellia Ndiaye Show. Ciao.